Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order and acknowledge that we're in Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Ojibwe, the Nunu, Cree, and Dakota peoples, and in the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in Treaty 3 territory. My name is Lynn Nesbitt. I'm chairing the panel today. Joining me in the room here is Valerie Werhun, and by Zoom is Robert Hutchings. Our assessor is Darren Ducharme, and our recording secretary is Belen Rojo. We'll be hearing applications for revision of the assessment roll in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application, and we will limit discussion to those matters. The statements that are made at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the Board of Revision. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by Council and is independent of it and the City Administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the Board's decisions with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or to the Court of King's Bench if the matter pertains to the application of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with the Board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the points of appeal of your property to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony, followed by questions that the applicant may have, and then the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all of the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all the applications have been heard, and the Board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You'll receive the Board's decision by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the public record. We will be hearing items 1 through 4 and 6 through 8 on our docket today. Ms. Rojo, please affirm the assessors and the applicant's testimony.
Yes, you can stay seated. Please state your full name.
Darren Charles Ducharme.
And you affirm the evidence about to present is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Please state your full name.
Ryan Oliveros.
And you affirm the evidence about to present is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Ducharme and Mr. Oliveros. We have 7 items on our docket today. We'll begin with item number 1 on the docket. Owen Street. Doesn't seem to be a civic address on Owen Street. I understand that the issue under appeal is value only.
That's correct.
Okay, then Mr. Ducharme, you can proceed.
Thank you. The file number is 22-2948. The roll number is 040-059-48900. This is Owen Street for the roll year of 2023 with a reference date of April 1st, 2021. The assessed value is $423,000. The parcel use is vacant commercial. The land area is 41,939 square feet. The recommendation is to maintain the 2023 assessed value of $423,000. Go to page 2. On my brief, we see an aerial photo of the subject that's highlighted. We see it's a thin parcel. It's tucked in off Regent with no real exposure to Regent Avenue. The property is being used as a parking lot by Club Regent Hotel and Casino. On page 3 is my land valuation summary. The area is 41,939 square feet with a rate of $10.09 per square foot, given a land value of $423,000. Next, we have our land sale comparables. Comparables 1, 3, 4, and 5 are in the same neighborhood as the subject, which is 433 Regent. Comparable 2 is in the adjacent neighborhood of 416 Mission Garden. All comparables have the same parcel use code as the subject. In terms of land area, comparables 1 and 5 are smaller in size than subject, and 2, 3, and 4 are larger than the subject. The comparables range from $26.96 per square foot to $30.28 per square foot. The comparables are older sales and would surely be higher if a time adjustment were done, which I did not do. The comparables were chosen for their close proximity to the subject, and while acknowledging that the comparables are in more desirable locations, I feel that this is reflected in the $10.09 per square foot rate that has been applied to this subject. On page 4, we have comparable 1 picture, 1328 Plessis Road. This comparable is 1.5 kilometers away from the subject. It is smaller than the subject parcel. It is in the same neighborhood as the subject, 433. It's sold November 6, 2013 for $29.21 per square foot. Top of page 5, comparable 2 at 1496 Regent. It's approximately 1 kilometer from the subject. This comparable is located in an adjacent neighborhood, 416 Mission Garden. It is larger than the subject. It is 55,639 square feet to the subject's 41,939 square feet. It sold August 9th, 2012 for $30 per square foot. On page 6, comparable 3, 1459 Regent Avenue. It is less than 1 kilometer from the subject. It's located in the same neighborhood of the subject. It is much larger than the subject, being 233,654 square feet to the subject's 41,939 square feet. It sold June 5th, 2012 for $26.96 per square foot. On page 7, it's comparable 4 at the top, 868 Regent. It is located approximately 1.1 kilometer from the subject. It's located in the same neighborhood as the subject, 433 Regent. It is also larger than the subject, 58,781 square feet. So the subject, 41,939. It sold November 3rd, 2015 for $30.28 per square foot. Comparable 5 at the bottom, 1439 Regent Avenue. It is located less than 1 kilometer from the subject. It's located in the same neighborhood of the subject. It is smaller than the subject at 24,203 square feet, so 41,939 square feet for the subject. It sold August 3rd, 2012 for $30.16 per square foot. And that would conclude my presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Ducharme. Mr. Oliveros, do you have any questions regarding Mr. Ducharme's presentation?
I do. Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Ducharme, are you aware if there are any water and sewer services on this line?
I do not believe there are any water services on that.
And you stated that there is no exposure to Regent Avenue for this parcel of land, right? It has no exposure to any major thoroughfares.
Correct.
Okay. And your comparable sales here, looking at the photos you've provided on pages 4 to 7 of your brief here, these all do have exposure to Regent, which is a major thoroughfare, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so would you consider your comparables superior to the subject?
I would consider them superior, yes, and that's reflected in the value attributed to the comparables.
Okay, so the department has made the adjustments to arrive at the $10.09 a square foot?
Yes, that would be accurate. Yeah.
Okay, do you know where those adjustments come from? How you quantitated the adjustments?
Well, it's a model starting value. Yeah.
Okay. And how does the model make the adjustments from your comparable sales to the line rate that's being suggested here?
I'm not familiar exactly with how the model would determine the values of the similar areas, similar properties, that it would determine the value of the subject property.
Okay. So you wouldn't be aware of any of the inputs that would be considered in adjusting for this line rate?
I wouldn't know what the adjustments would be.
Those are all my questions for this property. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Mr. Hutchings, do you have any questions?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Ducharme, I think you stated that the subject property is part of the Regent Avenue Casino Complex. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now, when we look at your photo, the subject photo on page 2, if we look at the bottom of the subject property, the subject property it seems to be it seems to be a road extension. Would that be fair? It's the same dimension or width as the road coming into the casino on Owen Street there. And then I believe there's a traffic circle, if I'm correct there.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
So this was legally separated for a road approach in the past, I suppose. Would that be right?
I'm not certain. No, it would appear.
Okay. Sorry. And then the paid parking on the right of the subject property, is that also part of the casino?
On the right, no.
So this would be the eastern boundary of the casino parking. Would that be right? The subject?
Yeah. Yes, that's right.
Okay. All right. And it's on its own roll number. Okay. That is my only question. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hutchings. Ms. Werhan, do you have any questions?
Not at this time, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So can I just ask just one more question about the configuration? It's this long skinny piece, right?
Yes. Yes.
So it ends at the traffic circle.
Right.
Okay.
And the rail.
And the rail line on
is
the
kind of-
other side.
Yeah.
So it never really touches Regent at all, correct?
Correct.
Okay. All your other comparables are quite superior, I'd say, in terms of their
Yeah,
configuration.
Yeah, I was focusing in the immediate area
Okay.
for this comparable.
Okay.
It was very difficult to find comparables in this area of that subject size. It's very thin, unique kind of.
Did you?
comparable.
Maybe you did, maybe you didn't. Did you consider looking outside the neighborhood just to see any other areas in the city?
I couldn't really find anything that I felt appropriate, so the focus was more on the area in this case.
Okay. Okay, well, that's all my questions, so thank you very much. Mr. Oliveros, when you're ready for the presentation.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Okay, so the subject property, it is on, or has an address on Owen Street here. The roll number is 04-00594-8900. The file number is 22-2948. So I'm going to skip over page 2 of my brief here and just go on to page 6.
Okay, just give us a second to get there.
For sure.
Okay.
Okay, so we can see here looking at the maps that I provided of the subject, that is this long strip of land with a red location marker here. And I've just provided a further map on page 6 as well. We can see that that the configuration of the site is very irregular. It's a long strip of land here, but it is used as parking for the Regent Casino. As a roadway for the Regent Casino. I believe part of it is also parking. Looking at page 7 of my brief. Going on to page 8 here. So this subject, the subject, it's been classified by the Assessment and Taxation Department as vacant commercial land. And as I've stated, it is used as parking for the Club Regent Casino. It's 41,939 square feet. And it is zone M1 manufacturing light. And the subject, again, is located, just to be clear, on the north end of Owen, but has little or any frontage along that street. Going on to page 9 here. Again, going back to the fact that this is used as overflow parking for the Club Regent Casino, we've determined that it's the highest and best use for this property has to be for a parking lot. So going on to page 12 of my brief here, as we've learned, finding comparables for this type of property, this type of configuration, it is quite difficult. There's really none that we're able to identify that's really like it. We feel that because of its configuration, that its development potential is quite hindered, and the fact that it has no exposure along region would it wouldn't be really considered. It would be considered inferior if you were to sell it off as a piece of land. So looking at my comparable sales here, they range in size from 22,229 square feet to 59,069 square feet. They are all located in different areas. I do acknowledge that. So the sales prices per square foot range from $6.21 a square foot to $9 a square foot. The average of the comparable sales is $7.42 per square foot, and the median is $7.24 per square foot. So index 1, it is considered to be the best comparable as it is the most comparable. It is the most similar in size to the subject. However, this comparable is superior to the subject as it does have frontage along Jarvis Avenue, whereas the subject property has little or no frontage along Owen Street. Index 2 likely has greater development potential due to its shape. So index number 2 is also similar in size to the subject, but it is superior to the subject as it has frontage along Wall Street, whereas the subject again has little or no frontage along Owen Street. And this comparable is said to have greater development potential in the subject property as well. And so that you have photos to reference to. I've also provided them on pages 17 to 18 of my brief. So for index number 3, at the time of sale, it was larger in terms of size with the same zoning as the subject, but it did have frontage along Niagara Road East, and in our opinion, development potential in comparison to the subject. Index number 4, it no longer exists on the city's roll as well, but at the time of sale, it was smaller in terms of size and did have frontage along Stapleton Avenue. It is considered to have better development. We consider to have better development potential than the subject. So based on these comparable sales, we have essentially what is a piece of land that the development potential is limited. And again, it is inferior to the subject, to the comparables, because it has no exposure along Regent. And again, going back to that development potential point. So the subject is currently assessed at $423,000 or $10.09 a square foot. But in our opinion, given the fact that this property, we find it inferior to our comparables, we've applied a land rate of $5.25 per square foot, and this results in our value of $220,000. And just for the remainder of my brief, I've already introduced you to pages 17 to 18, which has photos of the subject, and pages 15 to 16 is just the assessment information, and page 18 states who the owner of the property is. And so again, in conclusion, we are requesting that the board reduce the assessed value to 220,000. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Oliveris. Mr. Ducharme, do you have any questions of the presentation?
I do, thank you, Madam Chair. If I could, is Mr. Oliveris, is that?
Mr. Oliveros.
Oliveris.
If it's easier, Ryan's fine.
If you could look at your comparables on page 12 of your brief, you noted that index 1 is the best comparable. I think you mentioned size.
Yes.
If you kind of look forward to page 18 of your brief, there's a picture of index 3, 1329 Niagara Road.
Yes.
Shows a long thin parcel. It's very much shaped like the subject. It also is not fronting a major artery, in this case, Lagimodier. It's very close to one, which would be similar to the subject. Would you agree this might be a better comparable to the subject?
Right. Thank you for bringing up that point. So our office really only has access to the present assessment roll. I believe for 1329 Aqua here, the roll number had changed. So 1329 Aqua was index number 3. So it was larger. So this photo here, I believe, is not representative of what the configuration was at the time. So it was difficult to really put weight on that property because I wasn't sure of its configuration or shape. I was only aware of its size at the time. Because again, when roll numbers change, we don't know if maybe there was an assemblage or maybe other portions of it were possibly subdivided when the rolls have changed. If that's my interpretation, when a roll number changes, there could be changes in the land shape, size, or configuration.
Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you. Mr. Hutchings, do you have any questions?
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Oliveris. I was looking at page 7, the photo of the subject property. And I'm wondering when that picture was taken. Would you know that? Approximately?
That's a good question. I guess with the board's permission, I can look that up quickly. I didn't write that down here. So.
Okay, no, fair enough. Thank you. So we're viewing the I would call it the south end of the subject property. Would that be accurate?
We are reviewing the south end of the Club Region Casino, I believe would be the more accurate statement.
I'm wondering,
South end of the section.
it appears to be new pavement. Is that the subject property?
Yeah, yes.
And on the right side, I guess it's a car dealership. Would that be accurate? Looks like car dealership storage or a lot.
Yes, that appears to be what that lot is used for.
Okay. On the left of the subject property, there's a curb and a divider constructed to divide this strip from the rest of the parking lot. So would it be accurate to say that this subject property is actually an entrance road to get to the rear of the parking area, and then you turn left into the main parking area? Would that be correct?
Well, looking at the photo that I provided on page 6 here, this parcel does include entryway to the parking for the casino as well. But I mean, yes, going through this roadway, you would have access to the west side of the casino as well, to the west side parking lot as well.
Okay, but am I right in saying that it looks like there's a picture there of a yellow curb on the left side by that pickup truck? And that's actually a ground level curb structure that it creates a roadway, and at the end you turn into the parking lot. Would that be right?
A ground level curb structure. I mean, yes. If you turn left, that would be a parking lot as well.
Yeah, but there is a curb there. So this subject, what I'm trying to get at is the subject property is actually a roadway, not a parking space.
Well,
Parking lot. It's creating access with curbs on either side to get into when you drive to the end there, you turn left into the parking lot.
I think we can see quite clearly from the photo that I've provided though, the aerial shot on page 6, that this is overflow parking for the casino as well.
Okay. Okay, that's my only question. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hutchings. Ms. Werhan, do you have any questions?
Just to stay on that for a bit, Mr. Hutchins mentioned that the car, I believe the cars that are shown there are a dealership. The cars on the right-hand side of my computer would be part of Club Region, right? On your photo from on page 7. But the same photo that Mr. Hutchins was just speaking about.
Those, I
Where it
can't,
says the number 6 on the pole there, is that part of Club Region 2? On the right-hand side.
so it's quite difficult to tell me. We have the aerial shot here.
Are we on the same? I'm not sure.
Yes, so I'm looking at your photo. You're looking at the photo on page 7, correct?
Yes.
Yes,
I
okay.
came down. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, from the aerial shot, we can see what's part of the casino, and I believe the assessor stated that the owner of the adjacent parcel on the east is separated. So I actually don't know if that parcel is part of the casino parking as well, or maybe they have an easement agreement on it, possibly. But I don't know.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you. That's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you. And I had been looking for the dates of some of these sales or the sales you presented, but I did find the column. It took me a while and I'm used to this little screen.
For sure, I wish I could provide
No, that's
a
fine.
larger photo, but I'm just the technology.
No, that's fine. Okay, I have no further questions. Is there rebuttal evidence?
I do, thank
Okay.
you.
And is it in? Okay, just give us a minute. We have to be able to access it.
And your folder now. And your folder now as well.
Is it the third item 1?
Yes.
I cannot find it. Sorry.
It's the third item.
Sorry,
Number 1.
that's the third window I have to add it to. Just 1 second.
Where do we access?
It's in your folder back here in your list of files. Okay, it's the third item, number 1.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, Mr. Hutchins, just 1 more second. Okay, that is uploaded. If you refresh your page, it should show up now. It'll be the third item, number 1.
Okay.
Do you have it, Mr. Hutchings?
I do now. Yes, thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Oliveros then.
Okay, so going on to just the second page of my rebuttal evidence here,
Sure.
looking at city comparable 1 at 1328 Plessis Road. I provided an aerial shot of this comparable, and we can see I've actually worked in this area too, so I can say that this parcel of land here does have lots of exposure along Regents and Plessis Road here. The photo I provided is as of July 2012. And then the next photo that I've provided here is as of July 2014. The assessor's sale here is for November the 6th of 2013. So We're suspecting that this land sale that the assessor has referred to here actually does include the building as well, and may not be indicative of an actual land sale. But that's based off of the photos that we are seeing. And also just looking at the configuration of the site as well, we do feel that it has good development potential in comparison to the subject. And I've just I've summarized some of those points on page 3 of the rebuttal. Comparable number 2, 1496 Regent Avenue. So this role, it no longer exists on the city's role, but I believe it should be shown as indicated which parcel of land that is referring to. I believe it is the smaller one, sort of outlined in red on page 6 of his brief. So we are aware that this role was amalgamated into a single role with 1486 Regent. It has good exposure along Regent Avenue West, and we do feel that it has better development potential than the subject property. Going on to comparable 3 here, 1459 Regent Avenue West. So the photo that I provided here is as of May 2012. The sale date of the subject is August 9th of 2012. This is another property here that we are suspecting sold with the building on site. But I believe this was essentially used as possibly more overflow parking for the casino as well, just looking at its proximity there. It has good exposure on a long region. Again, it has good development potential in comparison to the subject. Going on to page 6 here. So we're aware that 868 Regent Avenue, it was subdivided. So there are now 2 roles here. And they are 09-010474-155 and 09-0104-74160. Now, that's not the important point here. My point regarding this comparable here is the same as the other comparables, is that it has good exposure along Regent Avenue West, and it has good development potential. And I provided the listings actually for both of these properties on pages 9 to 15 of my brief, and on page 11, this just shows here that Regent Avenue, it does have that this parcel and even the other comparables that the assessor has presented today do have great exposure to Regent Avenue. Comparable number 5. A simple statement that I would like to make here: it has good exposure on Regent Avenue West and likely has good development potential in comparison to the subject.
Thank you very much.
And that concludes my presentation for my rebuttal. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Duchamp, do you have questions of your rebuttal evidence?
No, I do not. I never disputed the exposure part of it. No.
Thank you. Mr. Hutchins?
I do, thank you. Mr. Oliveris, I think you made a comment on, correct me if I'm wrong, comp number 3, that was purchased for expansion of the casino parking space or lot?
I essentially made the assumption that this may be used as extra parking for the casino.
And that was comparable, the assessor's comparable number 3?
Yes, that was the assessor's comparable 3. The photo I provided is a very old photo. It's from May 2012, but I do believe that is the Regent Casino off to the right-hand side.
Okay. So did the casino purchase it for $6.3 million? Do you know that? I know I'm asking you, but it's the assessor's evidence, but just based on your comment about possible parking lot expansion for the casino.
Yeah.
I guess, would you know if it was the casino that purchased it or maybe you don't? I'm not sure.
I don't have that information in front of me.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, fair enough. Thank you. All my questions.
Thank you. Ms. Werman?
None, thank you.
And I have no questions. And Mr. Ducharme, do you have rebuttal evidence?
No,
Is there a desire for summation?
I don't know.
Okay, Mr. Oliveros?
I do not know.
Okay, thank you. That concludes item number 1 on our agenda. Just get organized. We'll now move to item number 2 on our agenda. This is Regent Avenue West. No civic address. Mr. Ducharme.
Thank you. The file number is 22-2949. The roll number is 090-077-02000. The address is Regent Avenue West. For the roll year of 2023, with a reference date of April 1st, 2021, the assessed value is $1,201,000. The parcel use is vacant commercial. The zoning is rural residential 5. The land area is 53,407 square feet. Recommendation is to maintain the 2023 assessed value of $1,201,000. On top of page 2, we have a couple of aerial photos of the subject located north of Regent Avenue West, but no exposure to it. The subject area is 53,407 square feet. The parcel is part of Club Regent and is being used as a parking lot and looped entrance to Club Regent. On page 3 is the land valuation summary. The area is 53,407 square feet. The rate is $22.49 per square foot, giving a land value of $1,201,000. Next, we have the land sale comparables. Comparables 1, 4, and 5 are in the same neighborhood as the subject. Comparable 2 is in an adjacent neighborhood of the subject. Comparable 3 is in the same region as the subject. Comparables 1, 3, and 5 are smaller than the subject. Comparables 2 and 4 are slightly larger than the subject, but are very close. Comparables range from $22.52 per square foot to $30.28 per square foot, compared to the subject's $22.49. Comparables 1, 2, 4, and 5 are older, and the sale price per square foot would be higher if a time adjustment were done, which I did not do. On the top of page 4 is comparable 1 at 1328 pluses. Again, it's approximately 2 kilometers away from the subject. Smaller than the subject parcel at 29,391 square feet, so the subject's 53,407 square feet. It is in the same neighborhood as the subject, and it sold November 6, 2013 for $29.21 per square foot. Comparable to 1496 Regents. So I apologize for the pic. It's actually a more current picture of the parcel. When it was sold, it was mainly a grass lot with a small percentage of gravel and concrete. It's less than a kilometer from the subject. It's located in the adjacent neighborhood to the subject. It's similar in area to the subject, and it sold August 9th, 2012 for $30 per square foot. Page 6, we have comparable 3, 1466 Templeton Avenue. It's in the same region, Region 2, Transcona, Kildonan as a subject. It's zoned the same as a subject, RR5, and it's close to the subject in area, 43,515 square feet to the subject's 53,407 square feet. It was purchased July 20th, 2018 for $22.52 per square foot. It was purchased with the building we see on the picture on the left prior to the sale with the old building. And then on this more recent picture on the right with the new development. Comparable 3 was purchased for the land. As we see, the old building was demolished at a cost to the owner I was unable to find what the cost was to demolish the building. Comparable for 868 Region Avenue, it is in the same neighborhood as the subject. It is approximately 1.3 kilometers away from the subject. It is close in size to the subject, and it sold November 3rd, 2015 for $30.28 per square foot. And comparable 5, 1439 Regent Avenue. Again, this more current pick of the comparable. At the time, it was undeveloped lots. It was gravel, no concrete. It's located in the same neighborhood as the subject. It's located only 150 meters from the subject. It's actually in front of Club Regent, whereas the subject is in the back of Club Regent. It is a smaller area than the subject, and it was purchased August 3rd, 2012 for $30.16 per square foot. That concludes my presentation page.
Thank you, Mr. Dushman. Mr. Oliveros?
So I asked that my questions from the previous case be carried forward just because they are very
They
similar
were
to this
similar.
case.
Yeah, they were.
Okay.
Yeah, that were similar. So.
Okay.
I do have just one additional question though. Just for your comparable 3 here, the rate per square foot is $22.52 a square foot, correct?
Yes, July 2018.
So, this is a residence, so this is a residential lot, correct?
Right, I picked it, so it'd be the same as the subject, yes.
That's fair. Okay, so this subject, it has direct access off of Templeton Avenue.
Yes,
Okay. And you would consider that, you would consider this parcel superior to the subject property?
I don't know if I'd say superior, I don't know. I mean, it's access off Templeton, but the traffic isn't significant off Templeton. I believe so. It's difficult to say if it's in a completely different area. I don't know if I'd say it's more superior to this one.
Those are all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Oliveros. Mr. Hutchings, do you have any questions?
Yes, please. I'm not sure if the assessor can answer this, but so far we've dealt with 2 properties that are part of the Club Regent complex, but they're on separate roll numbers. I'm wondering what the process is for a merging of separate roll numbers into one large roll number for the complex.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to answer that. Unfortunately, I don't know. Yeah.
Okay.
That'd be nice.
Yeah. Madam Chair, do you mind if I ask the applicant's representative the question whether the applicant has ever requested a merging of these roll numbers?
Go ahead.
Would you know that?
No, I do not know.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. Okay. That was my only question. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Werhan, do you have any questions? No questions? And I have no questions. So Mr. Oliveros, with your presentation, please.
Thank you very much. Okay, so the subject property, it has a civic address of Regent Avenue West, no actual street number though. The roll number is 09-0077020000, file number 22-2949. I'm just going to skip on to page 7 of my evidence here.
Let's get to it.
For sure.
Okay, page 7. Okay.
Okay, so I provided an aerial shot here as I did with the previous property, as well as a just a further map of the subject. So we can see here from the aerial shot that although this does have a address along Regent Avenue West, that there is actually no exposure to Regent Avenue. I provided a photo of the subject. You can see here, it's the back excuse me, entrance of the Club Regent Casino. I believe this may actually be used as the event center entrance. Going on to page 8 of my brief here, this site has also been classified as commercial land, and again, the site's used as parking lot for the Club Regent Casino. I do want to stress here that there is no exposure of the subject to Regent Avenue. The property is 53,407 square feet, and it is zoned RR5 for rural residential. And going on to page 9, we just have here that due to its because of its current use as a parking lot for the Club Regent Casino, we do feel that the highest and best use is as a parking lot. So going on to page 12 of my evidence. So my comparable sales here, again, to find a parcel of land that would be comparable to the subject with no exposure along Regent, used as a parking lot to, I guess, support the main holding here. It is difficult to find those types of comparables. So we have looked to different areas here, unfortunately, for comparable to there. I do know that we weren't able to find that its exact location, unfortunately. But the comparable sales here, they range in size from 24,986 square feet to 60,994 square feet. The sale price per square foot, they range from $13.28 a square foot to $16.02 per square foot. So again, I provided photos of the comparable sales of what I was able to identify on pages 16 to 17 of my brief here. So I understand these are sort of located in those inner city rural type areas, but we do feel that these have greater development potential than the subject property. And because of the exposure that the subject property has, we do feel that a minimal value should be assigned to it. So going back to page 12 of my brief, considering the fact that the subject has no exposure to Regent Avenue, we are submitting that a value of $10.25 per square foot be applied to the subject. This results in a value of $547,000. And I do feel I'm being quite liberal with the rate per square foot that I've applied here. So I asked that the board reduce the assessed value for the property to $547,000. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Oliveros. Mr. Ducharme, do you have any questions?
I do. Thank you. So Oliveros, on page 12, looking at the comparables, would you agree that the comparables 1 and 2 on Loudon Road are virtually opposites of the city to this subject? Loudon is near the outskirts of West Winnipeg, Charlotte. The subject is the northeast of Winnipeg, Transcona.
I would agree with that, yes.
And then looking at index 7, that one is located approximately 1.5 kilometers from the subject in a neighborhood that is adjacent to the subject. It is close in area to the subject. It's close to a major traffic route, but not exposed to it, similar to the subject. And it's currently being used as overflow parking for Costco, which is similar to the subject's use. As parking for Club Regent, would the applicant agree this comparable at 1602 per square foot might be the best comparable of the ones you have?
So just ask clarification on your question here. Are you you're saying that this comparable does have exposure or does not have exposure?
Your comparable does not have exposure to regions, I believe, to major thoroughfare. My question was, do you think this would be the best comparable of the ones you have?
I wouldn't consider this to be the best comparable. Although it doesn't have exposure to Regent Avenue, it does have exposure to Pegwish Street. I do shop in this area all the time, and I can say that this part does get particularly busy on weekends. So
that's all I have. Questions?
Thank you. Mr. Hutchings, do you have any questions?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Oliveris, page 12, your comparables. Well, first question is the ones in Charleswood. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 7. Are those service lots?
Comparable 1 is not serviced. Comparable 2, we weren't able to pull the historical information on it, so I'm not sure if it was serviced at the time of sale.
Oh, yeah.
Comparable 3 has no services here.
Okay.
And comparable 4 has no water or no sewer services as well.
I apologize. I just saw that final column there with the site influences. So you did have my question was answered. Okay, now what I'm confused about is the zoning on this subject property is residential rural 5. So this piece of the parking lot is residential zoning, is that right?
Yes, that is right. I'm sorry. I'll let you move forward with your questioning. Yes, but that is correct. That it is residential zoning.
Okay. Was there a variance applied for and obtained for using it as a parking lot?
I'm not sure, but I wouldn't doubt that there was a variance that was approved to use this as a parking lot.
So when you do comparables, would it be more accurate to be using commercial comparables, commercial zone comparables rather than rural residential? I'm just asking the question here.
No, for sure. I would agree with that. It would likely be more appropriate to use commercial comparables for the subject property. But again, just given the fact that this subject itself, it's just used as to support the main holding. There's no real exposure along regions. We were not able to find any essentially sales comparable to the subject.
Okay, fair enough.
Exposure along any major thoroughfares.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. That's all my questions.
Thank you, Mr. Hutchings. Ms. Werhunt, do you have any questions?
No, my question was just answered.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Mr. Oliveris, I understand you have rebuttal evidence for this item.
I do, yes.
Just give us a minute to. It's in there now. It's in there. I don't remember.
And to be clear on this too, it's almost the exact same rebuttal as so.
And that's the third item.
Oh, I'll hold it down here.
Oh, what happened? Okay.
Everybody's got it? Mr. Hutchings, do you have the rebuttal evidence?
Bear with me 1 second, please. Yes, I do. Thank you.
Hey, Mr. Oliveris.
Okay, so I asked that for my rebuttal here, that my comments regarding the city's comparables 1, 2, 4, and 5 be carried forward from the Owen Street property. Just expedite the process here.
Sure, thanks.
So the only comparable here, and I think we've already touched on the points through questioning here, or the assessor has already presented the concerns that I had with this property, is that we can see that as of May 2018 that there was a home on site, and the sale for this property took place on July the 20th, 2018. We were also not able to find if the cost of construction were included in that sale price. But again, looking at the development potential here, it has good exposure on Templeton. But again, I do acknowledge that this isn't a high traffic location, but that it has better development potential again than the subject property. And that will conclude my presentation for my rebuttal.
Thank you very much. Mr. Ducharme, any questions on the rebuttal evidence?
I did think in my brief, I did mention that the Templeton comparable 3 was purchased with the building.
Oh,
Is that-
yes, maybe I possibly misspoke there, or didn't add enough detail just in my comment. But yes, you are correct that you did mention that the property sold with the building.
Thank you.
Mr. Hutchings,
No questions, thank you.
Ms. Rohan,
No questions, thank you.
thank you, and I have no questions. Mr. Oliveros, a desire for summation?
No, thank you, Madam Chair.
Mr. Duchamp?
No submission.
Okay, thank you. Are we good to proceed? Or does anybody need a break, or shall we go for another half an hour or so? I can figure out now.
I could use a quick 5-minute break, please.
We'll take a quick 5-minute break. Thank you. I'd like to call the meeting back to order. We're now dealing with item number 3 on our agenda, 1171 Concordia Avenue. This property has 3 points of appeal: classification, liability, and assessed value. Is that correct, Mr. Oliveros?
That is correct, Madam Chair. And to be clear on that point, we will be confirming the liability and we'll be speaking to classification and value.
Classification and value only. Okay, so we'll first deal with the issue of classification. And on that matter, you will go first. So we'll get you to start, but could you please read in the file number and the roll number and the civic address before you start on your presentation on classification?
So the roll number, file number, and
Civic address.
civic address. All right, so the roll number is 04-007094700. The civic address is 1171 Concordia Avenue, and the file number is 22-1810.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so for this property, I want to make sure that my statement here is absolutely clear. The classification on this property is currently class code 60 for other properties. So based on the information that we had at the time of preparing and submitting our evidence here, our intent was to request that 47.91% of the 2023 assessed value be attributed to class code 20 and that the remainder be attributed to class code 60 because of the intention to develop a 6- and 7-story building containing 175 dwelling units. And I will touch more on that after I explain sort of the issue that we've run into here. So upon further receipt of the information that we received after we had submitted our evidence, after the submission deadline, we received more info that has led us to the conclusion that 78% of the 2023 assessed value should be attributed to class code 20. However, for the purposes of this hearing specifically, we have only submitted evidence that would support the 47.91% of the 2023 assessed value to be attributed to class code 20. But this is the portioning that we will be requesting. However, to be very clear on this, because of that new information that we have received, we do have the full intent that that if the board does decide if the board does agree with our information here to grant the 47.91%, that we will still be appealing to we will still appeal that decision to the municipal board because of the new information. So I do want to be very clear to that point. And we do think that the assessment department for their patients with these issues.
Perhaps you can tell us in a little bit more detail then why you believe a classification change is required.
Yes, for sure. Okay, so going on to page 9, or sorry, page 8 of my brief here. I'm just going to look at the second paragraph. So starting at the second sentence here. So the development of phase 8 of this site, it was approved by the East Kildonan and Transcona Community Committee on May 25th, 2022. And as I had mentioned, the intention of phase A of the approved development plan is to construct a 6 and 7-story building that would contain a total of 175 dwelling units, including 113 assisted and 62 independent dwelling units. And I have included that plan approval on page 25 to 31 of my brief, and then there is a highlighted portion on page 30. I understand that there's 2 page numbers there. That's because it's taken from the city council records, and they have applied their own page numbers. But looking on page 30 of my brief, we can see here that for phase A, that 113 assisted dwelling units, 62 independent dwelling units, for a combined total of 175 dwelling units were approved. And it would be for a 6 and 7-story building. So that was the council decision. And if we go on to page 9 of my brief here, I've already stated that the East Kildonan and Transcona Community Committee approved the development of phase A of this site for the type of development that I had described. So the subject site, it is zoned commercial mixed use, and the Winnipeg zoning bylaw does state this. So the CMU district is intended to provide for community serving mixed use development at a higher scale than is appropriate for neighborhood locations. The CMU district is intended for use in community and regional mixed use centers or community and regional mixed use corridors. The district is intended to include attractive commercial, institutional, recreational, and service facilities needed to support surrounding neighborhoods and the community at large. Although the area, site, or building should have a predominantly commercial character, multi-family housing may be incorporated within the district, and development should facilitate pedestrian connections between residential and non-residential uses. So we've stated here that the highest and best use for the subject is likely as a mixed-use commercial development combining multi-family and commercial uses, but what has been approved so far is purely for a residential building. Okay. So now, if we go on to page 13 of my brief here, I've included part of the Municipal Assessment Act that relates to the classification of property and portion values, and I will be referring to Section 4B. So Section 4B of the classification of property and portion values of the Municipal Assessment Act states, the class of property known as residential 2 consists of the following: undeveloped, unimproved, vacant, or abandoned land that is lawfully usable primarily for a residential purpose and on which there may lawfully be constructed a building containing 5 or more dwelling units. So the plan for phase A of this development has already been approved for what is essentially, we said as independent and assisted living units, but those are essentially at their most basic core residential units. So I've included the portion of the Municipal Assessment Act that I referred to on page 24, but I've already read that out. And I've included the permitted uses of the CMU zoning district on pages 18 to 19. Page 18 to 23 of my evidence. So based on this information that we have identified here, this is why, in our opinion, that the classification for the subject property should be split between class code 20 and class code 60. And I believe that would conclude my presentation regarding classification.
Thank you very much. Mr. Ducharme, any questions?
No, no questions.
No question. Mr. Hutchings,
Like we are in agreement with the classical split.
you're in agreement with the classical
Yes,
split?
yes, so 47.91% to class code 20. With the remainder, 52.09% being class code 60. So that would be phase A, which has been approved by council. It's imminently developable and it suffices the requirements for that classification.
Okay. Mr. Hutchings,
Yes, I do. Thank you. So the assessor is agreeing with the split requested. My question is, what is the current physical condition of the property? Are there building permits out and is construction underway?
I believe the building permits are out for phase A. And sorry, I'm just trying to withdraw. Let me recall that here. I do have the email from my client. Thank you for your patience. There was a lot of back and forth with this file.
No problem.
Apologize, I'm just drawing a link right now. I have this information.
What I'm trying to determine is whether this is still vacant land with development pending.
Yes, so this is still vacant land with development pending. I know that part of it is still parking lot and vacant land here. The RFP, I believe, for the construction should be going out soon, and construction is set to start in January or February of next year.
Of 2023, is that right?
2023, that is correct.
Okay. I know this is a bit inappropriate, Madam Chair, but I'm going to ask the assessor, what would be the procedure in dealing with development and supplementary assessments on a property where there's going to be mixed use?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
What would be the procedure in developing an assessment on a property that's mixed use? So we've got a pending residential use and a pending commercial use. So we've got mixed use. Would there be, would the department, upon construction and completion of the project, establish a date for that, reflecting that income and expense, that commercial workup on those two types of properties, and issue a supplementary assessment that would change the use code of the property?
Yeah, if I understand the question correctly, once the building has been completed and the occupancy is being approved, there would be a supplemental issue, assessed value issued, yes.
Okay.
Effective the date of the occupancy.
Yeah, okay. So the value could significantly change, is that right, at that time?
At that time, yes.
Okay. And with all due respect to you, I'm a bit confused that a change in assessment would be applied for potential future development based on would that be and sorry, I don't mean to show any disrespect to you, but you're agreeing that because council has approved a change in use, that this board should change the assessment classification on the properties based on future development?
Yeah, phase A, yes, it's been approved by council. There is, the development is imminent. And so it falls within the wording of the classification, yes.
Yeah. I guess we'll discuss this in camera because I'm a bit, our mandate is to assess the property based on current physical condition, not economic. So I guess we'll leave it for in-camera discussion. That's all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Burhan, do you have any questions?
Thank you.
Okay, I just wanted to be clear also. You said an RFP is going to be issued?
I believe I don't know if RFP would be the correct terminology for it, but I do know that there is the intent already to have a developer come in and start development of the site in January and February. So I just can't find, for some reason, the terminology that my client had used for it. But
in 2 months, an RFP would be issued, evaluated, and development would start. Nope, that's quite all right.
okay, here it is.
Okay.
Lots of notes throughout these past few months.
Yeah, sure.
So phase A, so the post tender addendum, that is the terminology I was looking for. It closes it already closed at the end of October, so they're expecting construction to start in January, between January to February. So the post tender addendum was likely out for some time already.
Okay. Okay. And then have building permits been issued?
That would be a good question, but I assume that they have been, otherwise they wouldn't have started the post tender. Otherwise they wouldn't have requested post tender addendum. So
And what is the property currently used for right now?
yes, so part of the property is used as a parking lot, but a small portion here, and I've included a photo of the subject as well as an aerial photo on page 6 of my evidence. So we can see here a part of the parking lot, and I think it would be more clear once we speak to value. We're still going to be doing that. This parking lot here, it is used right now as parking for 1155 Concordia, but because of these new developments that are going to be put into place here, that would start changing the use of this property.
Okay. Okay, thank you. So Mr. Ducharme, you've indicated that the city is in agreement that there should be a split at this time or down the road, or what is?
Yeah, at this time.
At this
Yeah.
time. And why at this time and not a later time? When there's actually
well,
a building?
It falls within, it was approved by council. Phase A has been approved
Okay,
by council. As I mentioned, development is imminent. And it meets the requirements for residential. Class code 20.
Madam Chair, may I interject regarding that? So I guess another reason on top of Mr. Ducharme's statement here, and on page 13 of my brief here, I did state that for the residential 2 classification, which is class code 20 here, section 4B states that the class of property known as residential 2 consists of the following.
Yes.
And I can read it aloud again.
No, I see that.
For sure. Yes. Okay.
Is it undeveloped?
Well, essentially, there is part of it that's a parking lot, but we are valuing this as vacant land here. So it would fall under section 4, subsection
That's
B.
your interpretation of that. Okay.
That's our interpretation of this, correct?
Okay, thank you. Okay, I guess we can introduce classification. Perhaps Mr. Ducharme, you could just give us the high level numbers. I see that there's no disagreement with the overall value of the property, correct?
Yes.
Like the total value is actually not under dispute. It's more the classification split that you're interested in, correct?
That is correct. And I believe
Okay.
we also have an agreement between what should be proportion to class code 60.
Yes, you're in
and class code
agreement at
20.
47.91.
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Ducharme, we still haven't heard, well, I guess we have indirectly from Mr. Oliveros, but if you could just give us the high level particulars of the value.
Of the value, so
Yeah.
with the agreement with the class code split.
Well, first, the overall assessment value, right?
The overall assessment value is $3,976,000.
Okay.
So for class code 60, we have a value of $2,071,000. And for class code 20, we have a value of $1,905,000. And that would be the total of $3,976,000.
And that's your recommendation?
My recommendation is.
And Mr. Oliveros, I think you have addressed that recommendation to some extent, that it's not in dispute, that that's what your request is at this point.
Yes, that is what my request is at this stage.
Okay. Mr. Hutchings, do you have any questions?
No, none at all. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Ms. Verhun? No. Okay. Okay, I think that concludes item 3. It's a little messy, but yes.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
if I just want to offer a quick summation because again,
Okay, sorry, I forgot to ask that.
no, that's okay because I realized a lot was said there, and so I do just want to be clear. I had stated just in the initial part of my presentation regarding just classification. We are accepting the class code split as well as the values for each class code at this stage. But again, because of the new information that we had received after our evidence was submitted and after the appeal deadline, that it did lead us to a different conclusion, and that we would have the full intent of appealing the board's decision to the municipal board. And that is with all due respect to the board. And again, thank you for your patience. We received the information after the evidence submission deadline. And with respect to the process, we would not want to speak to information that's not included in our evidence. So.
Okay. Mr. Ducharme, do you have any?
No
Thing you'd like
summation. No summation.
Okay, thank you very much. Now move to item 4 on our agenda. 175 Stadacona. Mr. Dishon, when you're ready.
The file number is 22-1846. The roll number is 140-902-53500. The address is 175 Stadacona Street. For the roll year 2023, with a reference date of April 1st, 2021, the assessed value is $178,000. I believe the agent is requesting the assessed value be deducted from the claims holding at 335 tweet. So I believe the applicant is just requesting that the board confirm the 2023 assessment of subject under section 54.1, which we're in agreement.
Okay, Mr. Alvarez, is that the case? Are you requesting confirmation?
Yes, out of respect of the board's process here, we are going to be requesting that the assessed value of 175 Stadacona be deducted from the main holding at 335 Tweed Avenue. So for that reason, we are requesting because 175 Stadacona supports the operations at 335 Tweed Avenue. We are requesting that the assessed value be confirmed under section 54.1 of the Municipal Assessment Act.
Thank you very much. Mr. Hutchings, do you have questions about that?
No questions, thank you.
Ms. Verhun? Okay, thank you. All right, very much. And let me just get organized and we'll move to item number 6 on our agenda, but I just need to pull it up here. Mr. Ducharme, when you're ready with item number 6, please.
Thank you. The file number is 22-2458. The roll number is 120-221-07000. The address is 664 Corridon for the roll year 2023 with a reference date of April 1st, 2021. The assessed value is $232,000. The parcel use is vacant commercial. The zoning is C2 and the land area is 3,960 square feet. Recommendation is to maintain the 2023 assessed value of $232,000. On page 2 are some pictures of the subject photo. The top is an aerial view of the subject property. And on the bottom of page 2 is a Google Street view of the subject property on Corridon. On page 3 is our land value summary. The area is 3,960 square feet at a rate of $58.59 per square foot, given a land value of $232,000. Below that, we have our land sale comparables. Comparable 4 is in the same neighborhood as the subject. Comparables 1, 2, 3 are in the same region as the subject, West End, Wolseley. While the comparables have the same parcel use code as the subject, comparables 1, 2, 3 are larger than the subject. Comparable 4 at 3,999 square feet is very close in size to the subject's 3,960 square feet. Comparable 4 is also zone C2, as same as the subject. Comparables range from $52.06 per square foot to $78.24 per square foot. I would say comparable 4 would be the best indicator to the subject. It is in the same neighborhood, has the same parcel use code and zoning as the subject, has a heavy traffic influence, same as subject, and is essentially the same size as the subject. On page 4, comparable 1, 500 Academy Road, is approximately 3.5 kilometers away from the subject in the same region. It sold February 13th, 2014 for $63.15 per square foot, with the old building located on the land, picture on the left. And then we see the post sale with the new building. It was purchased for the land as the building was demolished at a cost to the owner. The demolition was completed sometime between 2016 and 2017 at a declared construction cost of $10,000 for the demolition permit. For the picture on the right, we see that the new building was constructed. The occupancy date was approved October 26, 2017 for the new building. And it has a declared construction value of $900,000 for the new building for the new construction permit. On page 5 is comparable to 1817 coordinate. It's approximately 4 kilometers away from the subject in the same region, region 5, West End Moseley, and on the same street as the subject. It sold November 6, 2015 for $52.06 per square foot. Comparable 3 on page 6, 1795 Gordon is approximately 4 kilometers away from the subject, on the same street as the subject, and in the same region as the subject. We see the picture on the left. Prior to the sale with the it was sold with the building, and then the post sale with the new building. It sold February 4th, 2016 for $78.24 per square foot with the old building. It was purchased for the land as the building was demolished. Demolition of the old building was completed May 12th, 2016 at a declared construction cost of $10,000 for the demolition permit. The new building on the right, the occupancy for that building was approved effective March 1st, 2017, with a declared construction value of $1 million per the new construction permit. Page 7 is comparable 477 Pembina. Comparable 4 is actually very close to the subject. It's well under a kilometer from the subject, 650 meters via Hugo or 800 meters via Daly. It's in the same neighborhood. It's virtually the same size, 3,999 square feet to the subject, 3,960 square feet. Has the same zoning as the subject, has the same heavy traffic influence of the subject. It sold October 25th, 2013 for $75.02 per square foot. And I would suggest comparable 4 is the best indicator to the subject. That concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Olivers, do you have any questions?
Yes, just the construction values that you're stating in your presentation there, Mr. Ducharme.
Yes.
Those weren't included in your evidence, were they?
No.
No. Okay.
I further research after this.
Okay. But I guess those really, even with that being said, those really wouldn't be indicative, I guess, like, I guess my question is like, how do those permits affect the land value of the comparables?
Are you talking about the demolition or the construction or both?
Both, yes.
Well, the demolition, there was some investment as well to obviously the purchaser knew that they were going to demolish the building and there was a cost to it.
Okay. And are you aware of if for the demolition permits, were those deducted from the value of this of the sales?
I wouldn't know that.
Okay. Those are all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hutchings?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Ducharme, can you tell me exactly where this lot is located between, it's on Corden Avenue, but what are the cross streets?
The subject?
Yes, please.
Cross streets. Go offhand with the cross streets would be, I'm sorry.
So on page 7, or pardon me, page 2, is that an apartment, that white building, is that an apartment block or is that the MTS building, for instance, or on,
The Google Street View,
yeah, page 2.
I believe those are apartments, residential. I believe.
Okay. I'm just trying to determine how far down Corridon we are from Pembina Highway.
I would suggest to be close to Pembina Highway, as comparable 4 is located on Pembina Highway. The subject is less than a kilometer from that location.
So it's further west, okay. So it's towards Stafford, I guess. Would that be fair, or Lilac?
I could not confirm, I'm not certain.
Okay. Okay, and then we have, so it just to confirm from the aerial view, it is the lot that is grassed, but there are 2 vehicles parked on the concrete portion along the lane?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. All right, that's my only question. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Wertheim?
Yeah, I'm just trying to, if you could, the comparables that you've used, their frontages are a lot larger than the subject property, right? On most of the comparables.
Yes, it would be.
And you said your the one that's most like the subject property is comparable number 4.
Right.
Okay, sorry, I'm just looking at the same time, excuse me. And with this being an odd pie shape, I guess you'd want to call it. So your frontage on this one, on comparable number 4, is it on Hugo or is it on Pembina? And that's the frontage.
Correct.
And you found that to be more like the subject property with a smaller frontage.
Yes, I understand the frontage is different for this comparable. They both have heavy traffic influences and just the other factors being of similar size, zoned the same, same neighborhood.
Okay, thank you. No further questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Oliveros, when you're ready with your presentation, please.
Okay, so the subject property at 664 Corridon Avenue, roll number 12-02210700. The file number is 22-2458. So just skipping on to page 6 of my evidence here. So this property is located in the grassy area here, and I can say that that would be representative of the current physical condition of the subject property now after questioning my client on that. I provided an aerial map on page 6, so as we can see here that it is a narrow lot, and it is indicated by the red location marker on the aerial map. On page 7, I've provided a further map. This is just to show the amenities around the area that the subject property is located in. So going on to page 8 of my brief here. So the subject is a parcel of commercially zoned land located at 664 Corridon Avenue. It is just east of Hugo Street North, and the land area is 3,960 square feet and is zoned C2. And there's only 33 feet of frontage for the subject, which we do see as a negative influence in value. So the property was purchased arm's length in June of 2015. The sale is 6 years old though, for $150,000, but there have been no changes in the physical nature or use of the property since that time. So just going on to page 12 of my brief here. So in looking at this property, I did consider the frontage. My comparables that I've used here, they are residential lots though. but they range in size from 2,473 square feet to 5,992 square feet. The sale prices, they range from $32.82 to $70.09 per square foot. And the average of the comparable sales is $44.97, and the median is $39.23 per square foot. The frontage of the comparable sales, they range from 25 feet to 50 feet. And the subject, as stated earlier in my report here, it does have narrow frontage along Gordon Avenue, which would have a negative influence on its value in our opinion. So based on these comparable sales here, I provided photos of them on pages 19 to 21 of my evidence. We're requesting that the board reduce the assessed value to $45 per square foot, but this does result in an April 1, 2021 market value of $178,000. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Ducharme, do you have any questions?
I do, thank you. On page 12 of your comparables, would you agree that none of the comparables are of the same parcel use or zone listing as the subject? Would that be fair to say?
That would be fair to say, yes.
In index 5, 603 ward law, that one would be the closest proximity to the subject. It's about 500 meters in an adjacent neighborhood. Would you agree that this would be the best comparable to the subject?
Well, in considering the frontage of the subject property and my comparable on ward law here. So ward law has a frontage of 50 feet. The subject has a frontage of 33 feet. So considering that the subject property has narrow frontage in comparison to that, I would actually say that my best comparables would be between index 4 and 3 here. Not quite so much 1 and 2, just because they are even narrower than the subject property.
That would be my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hutchings, do you have any questions?
No question, thank you.
Ms. Verheyen?
None, thank you.
Okay, let me just write this down. Okay, I don't think I have any questions then either. Summation required?
No, thank you, Madam Chair.
I would like to. I agree with the applicant in terms of subject having the narrow frontage. I would say in that area, without really even trying, there were more than several properties with frontage widths being the same or smaller on that street. Specifically, 670 Corridon is 29 foot, has a 29 foot wide lot, which is the restaurant. 710 Corridon has a 27 foot wide lot.
Madam Chair.
Pardon me?
Sorry, I may interject. Is this new evidence being submitted?
You haven't
call it-
spoken of those properties in your original
Okay,
brief, correct?
correct.
Okay, perhaps we
Okay.
should discuss them. Thank you very much.
That's fine. Thank you.
But do you have other points that you would like?
No, there are numerous properties in that area that have this actually smaller widths.
Thank you.
In that area.
Thank you. Okay. We'll now move to item number 7 on our agenda. 228 King Street. Let me just get there. Okay, Mr. Ducharme, when you're ready.
Thank you. The file number is 22-3207. The roll number is 130801. 13000. The address is 228 King Street. For the roll year 2023, with a reference date of April 1st, 2021, the assessed value is $562,000. The parcel use is vacant commercial. The zoning is C, character. The land area is 14,231 square feet. The recommendation is to maintain the 2023 assessed value of $562,000. On top page 2 is an aerial photo of the subject, circled in red. And on the bottom, a Google Street View of the subject lot. Page 3 is at the top is our land valuation summary. The area is 14,231 square feet at an applied rate of $39.49 per square foot, giving a land value of $562,000. Below that is our land sale comparables. Comparable 5 is in the same neighborhood as the subject, 172 Chinatown. Comparables 3 and 4 are located in the same region as the subject, region 3, North End - Logan West End. Comparables 1 and 2 are located within 3.5 kilometers of the subject. All comparables have the same parcel use as the subject. Comparables 1, 3, and 5 are larger than the subject. Comparable 4 is smaller, and comparable 2 is close to the subject area in size. Comparables 3, 4, and 5 are zoned the same as the subject, character. Comparables sale price range from $53.61 per square foot to $96.65 per square foot, with an average of $72.69 per square foot. I didn't say comparable 5 would be the best indicator, being in the same neighborhood, the same parcel use, and the same zoning, with a relatively recent sale for $53.61 per square foot. We see a subject sale history. The subject sold February 5th, 2013 for $590,000. So the 2023 assessed value of $562,000 for the subject is actually below this February 2013 sale price of $590,000. On top of page 4 is comparable 1, 318 Notre Dame. It's located approximately 3.5 kilometers from the subject. It has the same parcel use code as the subject. And it sold January 23rd, 2015 for $96.65. Comparable 2, 505 St. Mary Avenue is located approximately 2.5 kilometers from the subject. The area is 15,006 square foot, which is close to the subject at 14,231 square feet. It has the same land influence, is a medium traffic and exterior corner as the subject. Comparable 2, sold December 9th, 2016 for $66.64 per square foot with the old building, the picture on the left. It was purchased for the land as the building was demolished at a cost to the owner. The old building was demolished effective January 2019. And the new building was completed effective April 8th, 2021 for the occupancy permit. Comparable 3, 325 Elgin Avenue is located only 350 meters from the subject. It's located in an adjacent neighborhood to the subject and has the same zoning as the subject, character. It was sold June 22nd, 2016 for $83.51 per square foot. Was purchased with the original building and was demolished sometime between 2016 and 2018. The new building was completed with an effective occupancy date of July 6, 2022. Comparable 4, also located about 350 meters from the subject. It is zoned the same as the subject. It sold January 5th, 2021, which is very close to the reference date. And it sold for $63.03 per square foot. Comparable 5 on page 8. It's located approximately 250 meters from the subject. Unfortunately, I didn't highlight the subject here in this picture, but it's located near the bottom of the picture between Alexander and Pacific Avenues off King. It's a rectangular shaped grassy lot. This comparable is in the same neighborhood as the subject, and it is zoned the same as the subject. It also has an external corner influence, same as the subject. It sold August 3rd, 2018 for $53.61 per square foot. The subject's assessed at $39.49 per square foot, and I believe this to be the best comparable to the subject.
Thank you very much. Mr. Oliveros?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So your comparable sales here, Mr. Ducharme, they range from $53.61 per square foot to $96.65 a square foot. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
So there appears to be, to me here, that significant negative adjustment to the value of the subject property. It's at $39.49 a square foot. Do you happen to know the reason? Is there a reason for the what possibly may be negative adjustments for the subject here?
Well, comparable 1 is granted not a great comparable. I was trying to focus more in on the area. Maybe that one could not have been included, but the others have multiple characteristics similar to the subject, and in particular, comparable 5 is very close to the subject.
Is there anything about maybe the location of the subject property that maybe would be considered inferior to the comparable here?
Can you repeat that?
So because the subject property here, it's the assessed value per square foot that the department has assigned. Is there a negative adjustment maybe because of the location of the subject at all?
There may be. I don't specifically know, but if you look at again comparable 5, it's right nearby. I don't know why there would be a negative adjustment. I'm wondering if it might be undervalued.
Okay, regarding the subject sales history here, are you aware that it was a multi-role sale?
No, I don't believe I'm aware of that. Okay.
Those are all my questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Hutchings, do you have any questions?
Yeah, just to follow up with Mr. Oliveros. Mr. Ducharme, are the current owners the purchaser of the sale in 2013?
I believe the current owners are the same purchaser, yes.
Okay, that's my only question. Thank you.
Ms. Werhan, do you have any questions?
None. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Oliveros, whenever you're ready.
Okay, so the subject property is located at 228 King Street, roll number 13-080-113-000, file number 22-3207. I provided a photo of the subject property on page 6 of my evidence, as well as an aerial shot on page 6. And I provided a further map on page 7 of my brief, just showing the amenities. So going on to my page 8 here, the subject is a vacant parcel of land located at the corner of King Street and Pacific Avenue, and it is in the Chinatown district. The property was purchased as part of a land assembly for the development of a senior residence. I'm sorry, I had that on silent. Sorry, so the property was purchased as part of a land assembly for the development of a seniors residence, although that development is still pending as fundraising efforts do continue. The area of the lot is 14,231 square feet, and it is its own C character. So in looking at our sales here, comparable one, that is the sale of the subject property. But as I had made note through questioning that it is a multi-role sale. And when taking the actual price per square foot here, it works out to $41.49 a square foot. Comparable to, we weren't able to identify its exact location here. It's 10,325 square feet on April 18th of 2017, and it sold for $172,000 and at a price per square foot of $16.66 a square foot with multi-use zoning. Index 3 at 265 Princess Street. This is an older sale than what the assessor has presented. However, I do have rebuttal towards that, which I will speak to after my presentation. So this parcel line is 22,459 square feet, and it sold for $411,700. And the price per square foot is $18.33 per square foot with character zoning. Index 4 at 174 Isabel Street it is also vacant commercial land, 6,715 square feet, and sold for $229,800 on November 2017 with commercial mixed use zoning. Comparable 5, it's a parking lot in Chinatown. The actual square feet of it is 6,611 square feet, and it sold in 2016. July of 2016 for $252,000 for $38.12 a square foot with character zoning as well. So with regards to index number 1, the sale of the subject property, it was purchased as part of a land assembly for the development of a senior residence, as I had mentioned earlier in my presentation. So in our opinion, that the purchase of the property was a highly motivated transaction for the purchaser. The purchaser paid $590,000 for the parcel, but we believe that this price was significantly impacted by the particular motivations of the purchaser. So based on our evidence here, we are requesting that the board reduce the assessed value to $32 per square foot. This results in April 1st, 2021 market value of $455,000. The balance of my brief here is just the assessment information starting on page 15. The demolition permit of the subject site, which was formerly the Shanghai restaurant. And just on page 24, the fundraising efforts as they continue. And I provided aerial shots of the subject on pages 27 to, or sorry, aerial shots of the comparable sales on pages 27 to 28.
Thank you very much. Mr. Ducharme, do you have any questions?
I was going to mention or refer to index 3. I think the assessor, the applicant already mentioned we have the same sale at 265 Princess. Mine was more recent. In fact, I picked that as my best comparable. My sale was in August 3rd, 2018 for $53.61 per square foot. But I believe the applicant mentioned he had a rebuttal to that.
Okay, so we'll wait to hear on the rebuttal.
So I guess my question is, were you aware of the more recent sale that was seen? I've answered the question. You were aware of the more recent sale at 265 Prince?
Yes, but in finding further, I think it would be clear, it would be more clear my rebuttal.
Okay, let's wait till rebuttal then to get into that. Any further questions?
No.
Okay. Mr. Hutchings,
No questions, thank you.
Ms. Warren?
None at this time, thank you.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Oliveris, you can. Let's just get your rebuttal evidence first.
This one's just one page.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, we just have to get it sent and provided to the rest of us. You guys have it?
I do.
Mr. Sean, you have it now.
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Mr. Hutchings, you should have it now too if you refresh your page.
Okay. Not yet, I'll refresh again.
And it's the third document under item 7.
And I have it now, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Oliveris?
Okay, so my reasoning into not using the most recent sale of 265 Princess, I am suspecting, I tried to do as much research as I could as possible into this, but it seems to me that there may be some motivations or possibly some motivations regarding this sale here. I know Center Venture, they are undertaking a large project in revitalizing Winnipeg's downtown. So in reading this document here for 265 Princess Street, it says here that this apartment building at the corner of Princess Street and Logan Avenue achieved zoning approvals from the city of Winnipeg in 2019, and the property was owned by Center Venture, was marketed and sold through RFP and development agreement with, I'm not going to be able to pronounce this correctly, AMBIT Development Group Incorporated. The project will consist of 88 rental apartment units with quality landscape street frontage, and construction is scheduled to begin in 2020. So I realized that the sale here was for August of 2018. And I guess I wasn't sure if this would have been appropriate to ask this to the assessor, but I was wondering how the change in ownership between 2013 to 2018 possibly took place, because I believe that Center Venture possibly had ownership of that property even since then. So it seems to me that possibly for the sale of 2018, that maybe it was purchased along with the RFP and development agreement. So there was already maybe an agreement in place that could have inflated the sale price, but I wasn't able to find any conclusive evidence of that other than this document here. So that concludes my presentation for my rebuttal.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Ducharme, do you have questions on the rebuttal evidence?
No, I have no indication that there were some possible motivations here.
Okay. Mr. Hutchings?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Ms. Werhan?
Good, thank you.
Thank you very much. That concludes item number 7. Yeah, just
Now move to the final item on our agenda, item number 8, which I just lost. And found again. No panic. Okay, 584 Ebby Avenue. Mr. Ducharme, whenever you're ready.
Thank you. The file number is 22-3132. The roll number is 120-978-07055. The address is 584 Ebby Avenue for the roll year 2023. With a reference date of April 1st, 2021, the assessed value is $629,000. The parcel use is vacant commercial. The zoning is C2. The land area is 13,464 square feet. Recommendation is to maintain the 2023 assessed value of $629,000. Top page on page 2, we see an overhead aerial photo of the subject property. Page 3, and on the top, again, an overhead aerial view. The owner of the subject 584 also owns 680 Pembina and is being used as an overflow parking area. And the bottom of the pic on page 3 is a Google Street view of the subject. You can see it's not the greatest pic, but we can see there's some exposure to Pembina there with the signage. On page 4 at the top, we have our land valuation summary. The area is 13,464 square feet at a rate of $46.72 per square foot, giving a land value of $629,000. Below that, we have our land sale comparables. Comparables 3 and 4 are in an adjacent neighborhood to the subject. Comparables 1 and 2 are in the same region as the subject. All comparables have the same parcel use of the subject. Comparable 1 is larger than the subject. Comparables 2 and 4 are smaller than the subject, and comparable 3 is very close to the subject in area. And all comparables are zoned the same as the subject C2. The comparables range from $75.02 to $149.10 per square foot. Top of page 5, we have comparable 1, 380 Osborne. It's located approximately 2 kilometers from the subject. It's zoned the same as the subject, and it is larger than the subject in area. It sold January 2, 2018 for $79.99 per square foot with the old building. It was purchased for the land as the old building was demolished. The demo was effective November 14th, 2018, and the new building on the right was completed effective November 10th, 2021. Effective November 10th, 2021. Top of page 6 is comparable 2. It's located approximately 2.5 kilometers from the subject. It's in the same region of the subject, region 7, River Heights. It's zoned the same as the subject, C2. It's a smaller parcel than the subject. It was bought, you see the picture on the left, bought with the old building, and then the new development on the right. It sold February 17th, 2017. $46.90 per square foot. Comparable 3, top of page 7, is located about 2 kilometers from the subject. It's in an adjacent neighborhood to the subject. It's very close in size to the subject at 13,414 square feet. To the subject, 13,464 square feet, and is owned the same as the subject. Top of page 8 is comparable 4. 477 Pembina. It's located approximately 1 kilometer from the subject in an adjacent neighborhood and on the same street of the subject on the same street the subject is exposed to. And it is zoned the same as the subject. It sold October 25th, 2013 for $75.02 per square foot with the old building. It sold for land value as the building was demolished. And the new building was constructed at a cost or was new effective August 12, 2015. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you very much. Mr. Oliveros, do you have any questions?
I do, thank you, Madam Chair. So looking at your comparable one here, 380 Osborne Street, and looking at the photo that you provided of it on page 5. So this comparable is located on a major thoroughfare. Is that fair to say?
Osborne, yes.
Okay, and has superior exposure to vehicular traffic in comparison to the subject?
Yes.
And you're aware that did you state in your presentation that there was a building to be constructed on this property?
At 380 Osborne?
At 380 Osborne, yes.
There is one that was effective November 10th, 2021.
Okay. Did you state here that I can't recall if you say this or not, but it's a 7-story mixed-use residential building, correct?
I believe so, yes.
In your opinion, would an improvement of this density be constructed on the subject property?
It would be very difficult, I would agree, probably to build this type of a structure on the subject property. Because this one's about 4,000 square feet larger than the subject property.
Looking at your comparable 2 here, moving on to page 6. This part of Stradbrook, it's quite busy here as well. Is that fair to say?
Yes, yeah, so yeah, I agree.
Okay, so it would have superior exposure in comparison to the subject property?
I mean, the subject property is not far from Pembina, so but in terms of exposure to Stradbrook, yes. Like being right on the street, yes.
And the subject property is sort of tucked away at the corner of Evie Avenue, correct? Or at the end of Evie Avenue?
It's yeah, it's on Evie, just away from Pembina, yes.
Okay. And your comparables 3 and 4 here, they have superior exposure as well in comparison to the
Yes.
subject?
Yes, it is.
Okay, and comparable 3 here. Did you state that there was a permit on this property as well?
No, I don't believe I mentioned a permit on this property, no.
Okay, all right. Are you aware that it was subsequently developed with a 5-story mixed-use commercial, retail, and office building?
I believe that sounds right. I believe so, yes. This is confusion. Okay.
So when arriving at the value, I've asked this in previous questioning. You're not aware of how the model would derive the negative adjustments to the, or how the model derive the negative adjustments to the subject property?
No, I wouldn't know. I believe that's a modeler's term, so that's specific.
Okay. Right, those are all my questions. Thank you very much.
Mr. Oliveros. Mr. Hutchings, do you have any questions?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Ducharme, any idea on the current use of this subject property?
I believe it's sort of just overflow parking for the property at 680 Pembina.
Okay. And there's no value, looking at the photo, aerial photo, there's no value assigned to that Quonset garage?
No, I believe any value to that garage. No.
Okay, so the assessment reflects a decision that the highest and best use is vacant commercial land, is that right?
Yes, I think that'd be correct, yes.
Okay, thank you. That is my only question. Thank you.
Ms. Wareham, do you have any questions?
I do not.
And I do not have any questions. So Mr. Oliveros, your presentation, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Okay, so finally we have the last item on docket here is 584 at Heavy Avenue, roll number 12-0978070055, file number 22-3132. So I provided sort of an overhead shot of the subject property here. I know the marker here is very small on the first map here, but it's the gravel lot that you can see. On page 6, I provided an aerial shot of the subject. And on page 7, again, that's just a map showing the amenities. So you'll see here on page 7, though, that there is the Port Rouge Auto Center. Port Rouge Auto Body directly to the north of the subject. So in my description here, I do state that the subject lot, it is an unpaid gravel commercial lot, and it is predominantly used to showcase the vehicles for Port Rouge Auto Body, which I mentioned is directly to the north, and that property is at 680 Pembina Highway. The subject, it is located near the southeast corner of Evie Street and Pembina Highway, and the property is 13,464 square feet and is owned C2 commercial community. Moving on to page 12 of my brief here. So I have provided 4 comparable sales. The first sale is located at 775 Henderson Highway. The size of the land is 17,247 square feet. It sold on October 2nd, 2018 for $470,000. And the price per square foot is $27.25 per square foot. And it is zoned the same as the subject property. The second comparable sale that I've identified is at 2480 Main Street. The actual size of the land is 11,876 square feet. It sold on December 23rd of 2019 for $445,000 or $37.47 per square foot, with the same zoning as the subject. 865 Henderson Highway. The size of the land is 21,534 square feet, sold on February 7th, 2018 for $846,000 for a price per square foot of $39.29 per square foot. All of these comparable sales that I've identified do have the same zoning as the subject. Compare the last comparable here at 1721 Portage Avenue, 23,201 square feet. It's sold on July 7th of 2016 for $1,020,000, and that equates to a sale price per square foot of $43.96 a square foot. The average of these comparable sales, it is $36.99 per square foot, and the median is $38.38 per square foot. So I would like to draw the board's attention to page 16 of my evidence here, and as well as page 17. We can see here that the comparable sales all have superior exposure in comparison to the subject property, which again is tucked away at the end of Evie Avenue. So we do feel that because these comparable sales do have superior exposure in comparison to Evie Avenue, that the comparable sales that we've identified are superior to the subject. But for that reason, we've applied a value of $31 per square foot to the subject, and this has resulted in a value of $417,000. I am within range of my comparables here, so I do feel that I've been more than fair in assigning a value to the subject property. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Ducharme, do you have any questions?
Yeah, thank you, I do. On page 12, looking at the comparables, I noted comparable 4 was closest to the subject, about 7 kilometers away. Would that be a best comparable of the ones you have for the subject, do you think?
So that comparable is larger than the subject property. In terms of its location, yes, it is the closest, but I mean, I typically try to because of the size of the subject property, I would lean more towards the first and second comparables. And also we need to apply that negative adjustment again. This property, it's just used an ancillary parking lot for 680 Pembina. No exposure to little exposure to any major thoroughfares. So again, I feel that comparables 1 and 2 because of their size would probably be the most comparable to the subject, but I do acknowledge that they are further away.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
Thank you. Mr. Hutchings, do you have any questions?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Oliveris, your comment, I believe you say that the subject is located on the corner of Ebby at Pembina. Does it not have Pembina exposure?
It does, but very, very little.
Okay. And my second question is, you've chosen to provide comparables sales from East and Northeast and North Kildonan. Would you consider that to be a superior or inferior location to Fort Rouge Osborne area?
So the area in general of Fort Rouge, Osborne area would possibly be considered superior to the Riverbend and Rossmere neighborhoods. However, this property here, again with its little exposure, I'm of the opinion that if this property were to go for sale on the market, that it would sell for less than the comparable sales that have been identified at 775 Henderson and 2480 Main Street.
Okay. Thank you, sir. That's all my questions.
Thank you. Ms. Wortham, do you have any questions?
None, thank you.
Okay. I was just looking at your averages. So you have an average of 36.99 and a median of 38.
Yes.
But you, in this property and with other ones, you've made a negative adjustment.
Yes.
Because of the lack of access
Not
to a major or frontage onto a major thoroughfare or access. What is it?
exposure.
Exposure.
So we're looking at this as commercial land. Let's take, for example, if a retailer were to look into purchasing a property, would they, looking at the principle of substitution, would they prefer these comparables on 775 Henderson or 2480 Main Street?
Mhm.
And in my opinion, a retailer taking a car dealership or anything would probably more so prefer more exposure to major thoroughfare.
Okay, so. Okay, and you said right now it is just being used as a parking lot.
It is being
that's-
used to showcase the vehicles at 680 Pembina Highway.
Okay,
Or sorry, it is used to showcase the vehicles for Fort Rouge Auto Body.
so it's not really a showcase, it's more like a parking lot for an auto body shop.
Yeah, more so. My concept stated as a showcase lot, but that's their process or
Okay.
their terminology for it.
Okay. The Fort Rouge Body Shop fronts onto Ebby, but the side is actually on Pembina. The side is on Pembina, right?
So Fort Rouge Auto Body, I believe the front of their building faces Pembina.
Okay, I'm trying to see on your page 6.
Page 6, okay.
I think that's the best, the top photo.
Yes. Yeah, so
Trying to see where the cars drive in. Do they drive in from Pembina? Is that the garage doors? Sorry.
yeah, so the cars will probably drive in from north
Yes.
and then turn left onto Abbey Avenue to turn into Fort Rouge Ottawa.
Okay, you got me confused. Sorry.
Okay, so let's say we're at the north of Pembina Highway here, so we drive down south. And then there's Abbey Avenue here, you would turn left to get to Fort Rouge Ottawa.
Yes, if you're driving north.
Driving from the north,
Oh,
yes.
from the north. Okay,
north.
gotcha. I don't do well with maps sometimes. And directions. I'm trying to visualize this property. Okay. Thank you. That's all my questions. Is there a requirement for summation? Yep.
I've had again, I've heard no exposure and then some little exposure for this property. It's all within 100 feet of Pembina, and so I think there is a lot of emphasis put on exposure that has been, I think, maybe overstated. It's 100. Like I mentioned, I actually measured it's within 100 feet of Pembina, and you can see from my Google Street picture on the bottom of page 3. That's where the traffic goes to reach, the property at Fort Rouge Ottawa at 680 as well, 584 or 584 Avenue. So.
Mr. Oliveros?
No
Section. Okay, well then, thank you very much. We've heard all of the items scheduled and this hearing is now adjourned.
Thank you.